Welcome to Running the Table, the podcast where we run through everything on the table in the world of sports. And we got another week of NFL football in the books, week 7. So like we do every single week, without fail, we're going to run through all of the games covering what you may have seen or missed throughout the week. So Tim, are you ready to go?
Lucky number 7. Let's run it.
Lucky number 7 wasn't so lucky. It was a wild
Not
week in the
really.
NFL. Starting with Thursday night football, where the Jacksonville Jaguars beat the New Orleans Saints 31-24. At some point, they displayed a graphic that like Trevor Lawrence has had like a hex put on him by the Superdome, where he's like, "Oh, Trevor Lawrence, he only lost at the Superdome." Well, he won and played well doing it, even nursing that hurt knee, going 20 for 29, 204 and a touchdown, even ran for a career high 59 yards on that hurt knee. So good on him. They couldn't stop ETN or Christian Kirk. ETN 2 scores and Christian Kirk 1 score. And Christian Kirk has really established himself as that wide receiver 1 in the offense, which is a little strange, but they did pay him a lot of money a couple off seasons ago. So it makes all the sense in the world. On the other side for the Saints, Derek Carr, not great when you're throwing the ball 55 times. You're typically playing from behind. The good news is that Alvin Kamara had his best day as a receiver, 12 catches on 14 targets, 91 yards. He is kind of that Saints wide receiver 1. And I don't know what it is about just like playing with Derek Carr that just makes receivers want to go fast. I guess because they can't go fast on the field, they got to go fast on the highway. And good for that policeman.
Hey, guess what? If Olave went 70 on the highway, he wouldn't have a problem. The problem is he went 70 on a 30, but that's another story.
Well, he was caught speeding. I think the more important detail is like, I play for the Saints. So you are not above the law.
You're not exactly.
So good for that police officer. But yeah, I guess it's just a common theme with Derek Carr receivers.
It's a concerning theme.
Either way, Jaguars come out on top on this one.
Yeah, I mean it's good for the Jaguars. Putting up 31 is obviously great, especially with Trevor Lawrence, like you said, nursing that injury. Their receiving core had sort of a bit of the weird start to the season where Christian Kirk week 1 was really off. Calvin Ridley got off to a great start. It's been a bit more of the flip side ever since. Christian Kirk has really established himself and has been super consistent ever since then. At least being a part of, we talk about usually it's 2 out of those 3 receivers. But on the Saints side of the ball, I don't know. It feels like they haven't quite been. Obviously, they're not playing poorly, but they have not quite been the same team that was got off to a really good start and was winning a couple of those games early. Since Carr underwent that shoulder injury, obviously he's not necessarily dealing with that injury anymore, but it just kind of disrupted their momentum a bit. Kamara, since coming back, has been fantastic. I mean, both rushing and receiving.
I mean, you talk about the Saints losing their mojo. I mean, blowing double-digit leads to Jordan Love will do that to you, but carry on.
Sure, if that's the reasoning you want to get behind it, but
it was during that game.
This is true. But yeah, for the Saints, I think great that you're able to get Kamara involved so much, but also it'd be more worthwhile for them to get more production out of their receivers. And they've been very up and down in terms of who they're getting production from, especially on the receiving side of the ball. So they need to kind of figure that out a little bit more and try to get those guys back clicking in the right direction. But, neither team played particularly poorly. When you got 31-24, it's obviously both teams were able to get the ball moving on offense. So we'll see where things go for both these teams, but neither of them are in a very bad spot.
No, not at all. The Saints are still salvageable at 3-4. They go to Indianapolis to play the Colts, and the Jaguars at 2-5 go to Pittsburgh to play the Steelers. The next game we do this every week. We talk about our favorite teams first, and the Green Bay Packers lost to the Denver Broncos 17-19. And let me preface this by saying the Green Bay Packers are not just a bad football team. They're a really bad football team for a number of reasons. I mean, this is the worst Packers football team I've seen in my lifetime by far. And it's really not even close.
Yeah.
And it's tough to get a Packers suck admission out of me. You're not.
This is pretty much uncharted territory for me. I'm not sure if I've ever heard you call the Packers a very bad football team. Usually it's always, something going on here or there that's a cause them. Here it's just
Dude, they
Packers,
suck.
Packers bad.
Packers bad. Packers really, really bad. And you'd think it's because quarterback. And if you casuals think it's quarterback, you will not get a Jordan Love sucks submission out of me because believe it or not, Jordan Love does not
He
suck.
didn't he didn't really do that poorly.
There is no quarterback in the NFL that can fix what's going on right now. Not Aaron Rodgers, not anybody. If Patrick Mahomes was the quarterback of the Packers right now, he would be sinking just as much as this team should be.
I mean, they would be better. And I'm not saying they'd be a magically good team, but they'd certainly
No, they'd still be
better.
bad. They'd still be very, very bad.
I think they'd be a 500 team with the Mahomes. They win some of these close games.
Listen,
It's
when you say that like receivers are like clonking heads, you don't mean literally and you don't mean consistently. Like this is a consistent thing where our receivers are running the same route on the same pattern. So they just kind of like run next to each other. And so the spacing of the entire play is just screwed up. And when that happens, the offensive line, like even that they don't want to block. They don't want to block. So Jordan Love is like running around and like making things a little bit more complicated than it needs to be. And then when they hand the ball off to AJ Dillon, he's like diving headfirst into just a pile of guys. And he hasn't been good. He's sucked lately. He's been better, but not great. Aaron Jones, even when he's been healthy, Matt LaFleur doesn't want to use him. And that's
weird to me.
That's probably the biggest indictment because it's gone from Joe Barry sucks, but at least we have Matt LaFleur to no, Matt LaFleur has done a horrible job. He has been bad. He has been really, really bad. And he has been the guy that like you'd think would keep the ship afloat and teach these young guys the nuances of the offense and get everybody in the right place consistently. Like nothing has worked. Like, especially in the first half when you tried to do like this little quick thing with Jordan Love where it's like get the ball out quickly, stat completions. So he's like 10 for 13, great, but it was for like 45 yards. And then like at no point, and then you start throwing the ball a little bit more down the field and let Jordan Love kind of like sling it and throw it over the middle and throw to the sidelines deep and like use the arm talent that he has. And oh my goodness, it's 17-16 and we're actually back in the game, And I'm not even using injuries as an excuse because the Packers are banged up. We are losing guys fast. And I think the most frustrating thing, like with Matt LaFleur, is we're coming off of a bye week. We're coming off of 2 long weeks. And the offense has gotten worse, has gone absolutely nowhere. They just look completely unprepared. And it blows my mind. It absolutely blows my mind. And what people are going to look at, they're going to point and blame Jordan Love because they're the guy, like he's the guy that's replacing Rodgers. So fair or not, and trust me, it's not, is going to, be blamed, right? And the Broncos didn't even play well.
Nope, they didn't have to.
They gave us the game. Like they were like, here, win it. And we were like,
no, I'm good.
No. We don't want to. Like it's frustrating. But yeah, I've accepted that the Packers are a bad football team.
That's a tough realization to come to. Yeah,
It's not that tough. If we had filmed this like closer to like the game, if on like maybe like the Monday after, then I would have been like, burn everything down. But you've
had a bit to calm down.
You have a bit of time to cool down and realize that like, your quarterback actually isn't that bad. Your coach is just a moron and hid behind Rodgers and Adams' success. And, this talent that you have actually isn't playing that well. And, the rookies that are clonking heads and don't know what to do. It's just a mess. And I don't know if it's going to get any better anytime soon.
Yeah, I think what's confusing to me is a couple of the points you made. The fact that not using Aaron Jones very much is weird because Aaron Jones, week one against the Bears, huge reason why they won that game. He had a massive game. Obviously, he struggled with some of the injuries. Not getting Christian Watson involved very much. Obviously, some of that is just product of the offense itself being particularly bad. But
Well,
you
Watson's
really
playing
want
as
to get.
poorly as the rest of the young receivers. He's
I know, but
clocking heads along with him.
but for someone like him though, is like he's a guy that you can get involved in a multitude of ways. I mean,
You'd
we've seen him have
think.
success. Well, we've seen him have success in the running game, even on like end around type plays. And it feels like if things aren't going well, try to pull a little bit deeper in the hat. But on the flip side for the Broncos, like you said, they just didn't have to do very much. um you know Again, there's not that much to say about them either because they didn't play very well either. But they were able to come out on top, mostly because they were able to get a lot more out of the running game. With Javonte Williams, being back and actually having a pretty solid game. And
Thanks,
Cortland
Joe
Sutton and
Barry.
Jared Judy. I mean, those guys continue to do their things. But yeah, overall, not a very pretty 17-19. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not too disappointed I missed out on that one, on watching
No,
that one.
nor should you be. It was brutal to watch. And, the Denver Broncos, they get their second win of the year. They will play Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. The Green Bay Packers fall to 2-4, where they will host and beat the Minnesota Vikings next week. And you can book it good, sir. But
Ooh, that's a bit of a dangerous book.
got to keep the faith somewhere. Can't be all doom and gloom. We're going to come out and shock the world. Let's keep it moving. The next game we have is the Las Vegas Raiders taking on the Chicago Bears with a resounding Bear victory, which is not something we say too often. 30-12. And it wasn't Justin Fields. It was Tyson Bagent that led the charge for the Bears offense.
He did.
And managed the game quite well. 21 of 29, 162 yards, a touchdown, an interception. I don't even mean that as an insult. Like, that's really what he needed to do for his first NFL start. Just not put the ball in harm's way. He did that. Keep the train on the tracks, move the ball down the field. He did those things. Targeted DJ more often, 8 catches out of him. And Deonta Foreman, give the ball to him and let him do his thing. Deonta Foreman had 3 total touchdowns, 2 on the ground, and 1 through the air. Like, this looked like a coherent Bears offense, which, granted, the Raiders still aren't very good. And, you got to see...
They're still run by Josh McDaniels.
Got to see Brian Hoyer, and, after he was inevitably terrible... Aiden O'Connell, and he did.
It's almost like Brian Hoyer still has not won an NFL start. Why does he keep getting them?
I don't know. Aiden O'Connell.
He's like, what, 0-13 now, I think, in NFL starts? Like, I get he's a perfectly cool, fun, fine backup. But, like, I talked about this with one of my friends. There was the Raiders gained nothing by starting Brian Hoyer. Brian Hoyer is not a starting caliber quarterback. He is older. He is not the future of your franchise.
He's old.
He's old. And he doesn't win when he starts. So you're already setting yourself up to likely lose with a guy that's older and is not going to improve at all or improve your team at all. And obviously, sure, the Purdue bias comes in. But even outside of that, why wouldn't you start Aiden O'Connell? I get that he struggled the other sense.
Or
the other time that he
Purdue
started.
Bias, and I think Aiden O'Connell should have started the game and played.
It made no sense. It made no sense because Aiden O'Connell did not look too bad when he came in. Obviously, he had the 1 interception.
When he didn't have Khalil Mack in his face, he was good.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing.
Better than Brian Hoyer.
Well, yeah, and again, it wasn't that hard. Brian Hoyer was 17 for 32 for 129 and 2 interceptions, and Aiden O'Connell came in and got more than half of those yards in, like 1 or 2 drives. And the big thing I think for this game, and the reason why it was as much of a resounding win for the Bears, was not because they did that well on offense, but they got 3 interceptions, and that was huge. As they set their offense up in pretty good position for a lot of those drives to start from pretty decent field position. They got the running game going, and they didn't need to get a ton out of the passing game. And for Tyson Bagent's first career start, that's what you need. You need to be able to set him up in a situation like that.
Hey man, free my homie Devontae Adams, man.
Hey,
Free Tay.
Hey, he got more. He got more. Touches. He got the ball more. They tried to throw it to him more. But again, he certainly ain't getting much help out there in general.
Listen,
there's still
Twitter saw this take first. All right, the Packers bungled up the negotiations by lowballing him and then putting him on the franchise tag. All right, it's time to make things right again. All right, the Packers need a leader, a veteran receiver that knows the system, that knows the quarterback, right?
I was gonna say, imagine if Devontae Adams goes back and starts bonking heads with the rest.
Can't get any worse. I mean, it literally can't get worse. So pick up the phone, call the Raiders, and bring Devontae home. Bring Devontae home. It's time to make things right. Bring him home. Totally not biased. Totally don't want him to go to the Cowboys. I want him to go back to Green Bay.
Ooh, I would hate to see Devontae Adams on the Cowboys, but that's another story.
Dude, they're talking about it, but Jerry Jones is going to be stupid and not pick up the phone. So, free my boy Tay. Free my boy Tay.
Exactly. But no, I mean, this was absolutely a pleasant surprise for me as a Bears fan, obviously. I don't think they played, a resounding, success on the offensive side of the ball. But again, it's because of the fact that the defense supplemented, their success. They looked, again, coherent. And for the Raiders, that's kind of enough to beat them most of the time. It's just be coherent.
Yeah. Be coherent. Like on offense and on defense.
Yeah.
You'd think that'd be not that difficult to do.
No, not too difficult
for some teams.
But no, I mean, we'll see where it goes. I haven't seen too many updates on Justin Fields' status going forward with that dislocated thumb. I don't know what the timetable is.
He is expected to miss this next game against the Chargers.
I did see that. I was pretty sure that he's expected to miss.
Afterward is unknown. I think it's just until he can grip a football.
Well, yeah, I mean that's what it comes down to. You got to build that strength back with a dislocated thumb. But I mean, we'll see what they look like next week because obviously Chargers, very different team
at Chargers,
and very different offense to try to defend. Their defense obviously did a pretty good job, but also the Chargers, they haven't looked too star-studded this year either.
I mean,
up and down as usual.
Different offense, more talented, same incompetent coaching though. So that is something that the Bears can use to their advantage. Look, they're sitting at 2-5. They're gonna head to the Chargers for Sunday Night Football. We'll see how that goes. And there's rumblings that we'll get to later about the Chargers. The Vegas Raiders, they play Monday Night Football. They're sitting at 3-4. They head to the Motor City to play the Lions. But let's keep it moving. We're going to talk ref ball, the Browns and the Colts. Oh boy.
Yeah.
That was actually a
ref ball
fun ending, well, if not for the ref ball. It was cool to see PJ Walker and Gardner Minshew duel it out. They both played relatively well. Deshaun Watson stole $230 million from the Browns. It's okay. Sunk cost fallacy. You put in all of these time and all of this resources into getting him. It's not working out.
No, it's not.
That's bad. That is a bad quarterback right there in Deshaun Watson.
I mean, he's been up and down. He's had some games this year where he looked pretty darn good. But the problem is there's way too much terrible, 1 for 5 for 5 yards and an interception where he comes in here to be worth remotely anywhere near that money. And so many of us, when that deal happened, were like, you really want to do that? And now we're like,
yeah, I'm not sure what's more impressive.
The fact that they're winning some of these games though,
and there it is.
You sink your cost there of spending so much money on a guy who's giving you nothing, and they're winning games.
But they're winning with PJ Walker.
And keep in mind, Nick Chubb is out. They don't even have Chubb. And they're winning
They
with
don't even
Jerome
have
Ford and
Jerome
Kareem Hunt in the
Ford.
backfield.
Well, they
Well, yeah,
don't
now
really
they
have.
don't, but
Now they don't have Jerome Ford for the next week or two because he's hurt.
yes,
It's
but
Kareem Hunt and Dearness Johnson.
yes.
No, Pierre Strong.
Yes,
Pierre
Pierre Strong
Strong.
Jr. is who's going to be up next for them.
Dearness Johnson, I think, is somewhere else. I don't even know if he's on the Browns at this point,
Yes,
but like that's
he
just to
did.
prove the
He
point
signed
of.
somewhere else. He did.
Well, you know what? Either way, the Browns are depleted, and on the backs of that defense, because that defense is probably the best in the league, if not the best. I think it's time to.
I've seen a
put
lot
them
of
in there.
places now that are considering them to be the best defense in this league, and given the way that they've performed a lot of these. Now, granted, they did give up 38 points, but like they still, again, when it comes down to, it's more of doing what you need to do. Sure, they gave up 38, but they were able to put their team in enough chance to get 39. So, if you put some black and white stripes on your side of the ball too, that also helps.
And Jim Irsay was not happy as, dude, he called
Jim Irsay
out
is
the
always going to keep
officiating.
talking.
Yeah, I
Jim
don't
Irsay
think.
never shuts up.
Yeah, when does Jim Irsay ever do the Colts any favors? Granted, I think we're all in agreement that the Colts got yipped out of that win, and it's absolutely
100%.
bogus. Like, and
Yeah.
trust me, Colts fans, we feel for you. Like, you guys should be 4-3 instead of 3-4. But maybe Jim Irsay just has to shut up every once in a while. Because
He's got to learn to bite the bullet sometimes, because
I don't
even
think
when
he's helping your
100%
case.
right, exactly, it's not helping. It's not helping.
What are you going to do
anybody.
about it? What do you
Yeah.
seriously? What is like complaining about it going to do? Really,
Nothing.
there's not much that it can. But all you got to do, scrap it, move forward, focus on the Saints, and the Browns on the other side. They're 4-2, and they go to Seattle to play the Seahawks. Up next, we got the Bills and the Patriots. Bill Belichick got his 300th win off of the back of a Mac Jones game-winning drive as the Patriots pulled it out 29-25.
Who are the Patriots now? I don't get it. Or more importantly, who are the Bills?
What
that's
the
is going on there?
Asking. Well, I think we had established that the Bills were like not quite who we thought they were, but also who we thought they were. They'll show these flashes of brilliance.
Doesn't give up 29 points to a Patriots team that couldn't even get a touchdown, so it seemed, in the last 3 weeks.
Dude, I can count on one hand the number of incompletions that Mac Jones had over the course of the game. He went 25 of 30, 272, 2 tuds, and no picks. Like, this was one of Mac Jones' finest games ever against a Bills team.
Dare I say Mac Jones masterclass?
No, you can say it. That's pretty accurate. Like,
it's so weird though. Like
using guys like Kendrick Bourne, Demario Douglas, who's pretty good. Like Mike Gesicki for the game-winning touchdown, Hunter Henry. Like, forget the money they gave Juju Smith-Schuster, which is a whole nother case in and of itself. I don't think the Patriots don't even consider him to be in the top 5 on their own team, which is quite alarming considering that Juju is a former 1,400-yard receiver in apparently a different football life. Jeez, what is going on with my lighting today? It's going bonkers. I know it does the thing where in and out.
Trying to put a spotlight on just what the hell is going on within that Patriots organization. Because I mean, we
by making me even more pale than I already am. No thanks. I already have
exactly
that.
What we need.
No.
But for the Patriots though, I think we've probably mentioned it before, but it's the fact that they also passed up on re-signing Jacoby Myers for the exact same deal that they signed Juju Smith-Schuster, and now Jacoby Myers doing his own thing, being
good,
a borderline wide receiver 1 for the Raiders, because Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't like throwing
again,
Devontae Adams
the
ball,
Raiders,
but
we went through them. They're a head case as well. All right,
exactly. But I don't know. I thought I knew who the Patriots were until they go and do something like this. So it's I think we'll have to see whether or not they're going to keep anything going forward, and see if they can actually keep their offense going, or if it's really just that the Bills just don't know what they're doing sometimes.
Why don't we just chalk this up to this was a weird week and weird things happened?
It was. Yeah. It definitely was.
I mean, it's hard to get wins in the NFL, and sometimes even the worst teams can just sneak up on the best teams. and beat them. I don't think this
I
means
can't even call the
anything
Bills the best teams though, so
for either team. I mean, you can,
not
you know.
anymore. Not in
I
my opinion.
well, the two of us individually were never high on the Bills to begin with, but
Not for
like
this season, no.
who's still at the top of the AFC? It's TBD. I mean, they're going to go the Bills at 4-3 and play the Buccaneers on Thursday Night Football, and the Patriots at 2-5 go to South Beach to play the Dolphins. So I guess that's your test. Are they really legit? Or, I mean, all signs point to no. But if they can go beat Miami in Miami, they're going to raise some eyebrows.
Yeah, for sure. Then there's definitely more conversation that needs to be had there.
After that, we'll head to the Meadowlands where the Giants defeated the Commanders 14-7. The thing that stood out to me was the Commanders are going to get Sam Howell killed. Doesn't matter if
Yeah.
Sam Howell's good or not if he can't freaking stand.
No, he can't. He
he's
doesn't get any protection whatsoever.
he's going to obliterate the record for most times sacked in a season, and it's not even close. We're not even halfway through, and he's almost there for the most times being sacked compared to last year. I think he's at 40 through 7 games, which is terrible.
I feel bad for the dude.
There's no other way to put it. I mean, hey, Commanders, not very good. You started 2-0.
Yep.
You've just lost 5 straight.
Whee! That's more like it.
Those are the Commanders we knew.
Hey, if they just keep losing, guess whose prediction may or may not come true?
Oh, never mind. They've actually scratch that. Scratch that. That's totally wrong. That's totally incorrect. They're 3-4.
Okay, so they have won that third game. Honestly, I seriously just don't pay attention to them enough to know exactly how many games they've won or lost. But it really has felt like since that hot start
No,
that they had,
I mean, I have it right in
that
front of me. I just can't read. So it's the Giants that are 2-5.
They're also not a good football team.
No,
and they
neither one of
also,
them.
and guess what? A segue into they also can't protect their quarterback. Obviously, things have been a little bit better more recently. And with Tyrod Taylor, I don't know if that really changes much of anything other than maybe he's just getting the ball out a little bit faster than Danny Dimes. But
the production's about the same. I mean, they're doing just as well with Tyrod Taylor as Daniel Jones, and they're paying Tyrod Taylor a lot less money.
Yes.
What an investment the Giants made. 4 years, $160 million.
It's a bold move. We'll see how it works out for him. It hasn't worked out great thus far, but you know how it is with a lot of these teams and quarterback play once you give them a big extension. But good to see the Giants get something rolling again. But this was a battle of who's gonna be able to put up more offense, and not in a good way. It was more like who's gonna put up any offense, and that's why you see this game end 14-7.
Both of these teams stink. It's okay. Like just sit here, the bottom of the NFL, and compete for draft picks and hopefully try to break free for maybe a year. But, issues for both teams. It was just an ugly game. I mean, records aside, 2-5, 3-4 for either team. Who cares? They both stink. Like I told you we were gonna not be nice to the Commanders. You suck. You're bad. Get wrecked.
I've never been nice to the Commanders.
I mean,
let's be real here.
That's true.
You know where I stand.
That's true. I just find it funny. The Giants will go play the Jets, and the Commanders, they got the Eagles. So
have fun.
Have fun. The Falcons and the Buccaneers. The Falcons won that game 16-13 with Younghoe Koo's game winner. The problems for the Falcons, although they won, they are not going to win very much more if Desmond Ridder keeps playing quarterback. I said that there's a solid NFL starter somewhere. Don't know where he is.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah, he just hadn't shown up. Certainly can't hold on to the football worth anything because he fumbled 3 times.
3. Was it? I want to say, and
2 of them were on the goal line.
I was gonna say, were all three red zone fumbles too? I know two of them were goal line, but I think all three of them were red zone.
Either way, that's terrible. That's
Yeah,
absolutely terrible.
it's
And I mean, if not for the Buccaneers playing down to them, then like probably wouldn't have won. I think the
yeah.
other strange thing is what in the world happened with Bijan Robinson.
Guess he
Okay,
wasn't feeling well, but that would have been good to know as a Bijan Robinson fantasy owner.
I mean, I played against a few, so I mean, their losses is my gain. However, I think the report is that he had bronchitis. Why was it not on the injury report?
Yeah,
No,
that's the
nowhere to
big
be found.
question mark.
Nowhere to be found. I mean, I guess because he entered the game, one carry
Yes.
for 3 yards,
Okay.
but I think it's strange. It was just a strange day. Um, I don't know what Arthur Smith is doing offensively, not using his weapons to the best of their abilities because he has a
See,
lot of talent.
but here's the one thing though. So Cordero Patterson's been, pretty much a healthy scratch for a lot of the offensive side of the ball, Mr. Joker, once he's gotten healthy. But he gets some touches this game and he gets 10 carries for 56 yards. So he averages 5.5 yards per carry. Use the guy. He doesn't have to just be a special teamer, even though you have like a completely stacked running back room now. I mean, if he's gonna play well when you give him the opportunity, play the dude.
If not, trade him.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, do something. Now that they've shown that he can still do stuff on the offense side of the ball, we obviously already know they made the Joker position because of how versatile he is. He's worth something to somebody. So if you're not going to use him, get some
Find
value
somebody
off him
who
and get him.
will.
Find somebody who will.
I think honestly, both of our teams could use a guy like Cordero Patterson in the backfield. Like,
We did have him in the backfield at one point, and it actually was pretty nice.
yeah, he's a really nice guy. He plays
Yeah.
catch with the fans. Cordell Patterson is a good dude. We'd like him, but I neither one of our teams are probably going to do anything at the deadline. But
No.
that's neither here nor there. The Falcons at 4-3 and first place in the NFC South, which is the most infuriating thing in the world, will go to Tennessee to play the Titans. The Bucks at an even 3-3 head to Buffalo to play the Bills on Thursday Night Football. Up next, you have the Lions and the Ravens. And what in the world happened to the Lions?
I
We
checked in
don't
on this game
we don't
in
know.
like the second quarter and went, huh?
This is what happens when the Ravens realize their full potential and when Lamar Jackson gets back into MVP form. He was an MVP many moons ago and he showed it again today. 21 of 27, 57 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, 36 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown. He did it all. He was phenomenal. And the Ravens defense, they played well enough to neutralize
I
that
was gonna say
Detroit
well
offense.
enough. They kept him to 6 points. This was a Detroit offense that had been, putting up a lot. Obviously, you talk about their running backs being banged up. At least Jameer Gibbs was back. He finally got some time, did well with it. But without David Montgomery, they didn't run the ball very much, mostly
Best
because they were
waiver
behind the.
wire pickup. You know exactly which league I'm talking about and who is
Never should
in
have
it.
even had the opportunity for that to happen. But
Thanks, guys. Oh, I
um,
completely agree.
but yeah, no, I mean the Ravens defense did an amazing job limiting them because this has been a Lions offense that has been pretty much clicking on all cylinders for the most part in terms of what they had been able to do to almost everybody they've faced this year. But no, I mean Lamar looked really good. He looked really confident. They were willing to throw the ball down the field to throw for 357 yards, but only throw the ball 27 times. Like a lot of times you see these quarterbacks putting up 45, 50 attempts to try to get to that margin. They were just super efficient. They found the holes in the defense. I mean, you talk about Gus Edwards had 1 reception for 80 yards. You just find the places on that defense where you can pick apart, and they just did that early and often and didn't let up.
Sometimes you have a great day and sometimes you just have a great day. You find what works and you keep going back to it. The Ravens certainly did that. And I think this is one of the better teams that the Ravens have put out in a while.
Because they actually have some offensive weapons that are doing something.
What a theory. The Ravens are at 5-2. They will head to Arizona to play the Cardinals, and the Lions at 5-2 play the Raiders on Monday Night Football. The Steelers and the Rams played a football game. The Steelers woke up in the second half to win 24-17, snagged victory. Some more ref ball going on at the end. That final spot with Kenny Pickett, he may or may not have gotten that first down. Survey says no, refs say yes, but that's neither here nor there. It was nice for the Steelers to see them use both of their running backs effectively. Najee Harris had a touchdown, which
he found the end zone. He wasn't super efficient, but he found the end zone.
I mean, he's looked better than he has in a while. Got the bulk of the carries. Deontay Johnson and George Pickens both had relatively good days.
Back.
And he's not dropping the ball. On the other side, Puka Nacua is a stud. There are people saying he might be the Rams' best receiver, which I think is a bit of an overreaction. But the fact that they're even comparable right now is a testament to not only how good both of those guys are, but also Matthew Stafford, who is slinging the ball around, and he's doing Matthew Stafford things. How many times have we said, like, if you just let Matthew Stafford rip it, he's a talented quarterback. He was drafted first overall for a reason.
He's talented. He's been around for a long time. He's seen it all, and you give him the weapons like Puka and Cooper Kupp. Like he absolutely has the talent and the brains to just be able to throw it around and put you in places to succeed. But the thing is, they have to be able to do that, and their defense has to be able to hold up a little bit better to give them enough chances to be in these games. Because, I mean, obviously the Steelers don't have like the most runaway offense, but they still put up 24, and they made Najee look decent, and they gave up a decent amount of yardage to both Pickens and Deontay Johnson. So the defensive side of the ball, I think, needs to do a little bit better for the Rams. But Puka, he continues to produce, and we'll see what he looks like as time goes on. You're not always going to have star-studded games out of both of them. You're not always going to have Puka producing big numbers, but it'll come and go. But he's shown that he absolutely belongs there, and he's done really, really well so far. So he's been a really fun addition to watch.
Yeah, and people have expected nothing out of that 5th round pick, and he has been taking the NFL by storm. The Steelers at 4-2, they're continuing to win games, Sir Tim. Not sure how they're doing it, but they're doing it. They'll play the Jaguars, and the Rams at 3-4 will go to Arlington to play the Cowboys. Up next, we'll talk about the Cardinals and the Seahawks. The Seahawks came out in this one 20-10. This was not a pretty game. Both teams did not play well. Like this is kind of how the Cardinals are, talking about them before we talk about the Seahawks. Congratulations, a Josh Dobbs led quarterbacking team, and DeMarcado at the running back, and Marquise Brown not playing typically well.
They're just banged up. I mean,
there are types of teams where it's like they should be better, but they're not. And then there are these teams that just don't have talent on them, and that are just like bad, and we're just like, all right,
quite frankly, looking at that lineup, I really don't expect much better from the Cardinals. I mean, we were surprised when Josh Dobbs was playing pretty darn well. This is more of what I expect out of, a Josh Dobbs-led Cardinals team, especially when, with James Conner being out and on the IR, you take away, a pretty big playmaker from your backfield there, and you're left with Marquise Brown to try to lead what?
We don't know. I think what we're more surprised with is the Seahawks. They should have played better. Granted,
they should have.
DK Metcalf being out, not great, but you have Jackson Smith-Njigba finding the end zone. Yeah. Get okay play from guys like Kenneth Walker, got over 100 yards, got the ball a lot.
What about that touchdown catch by Jake Bobo, though? That was crazy.
That was a nice little catch. Whenever there's like an unknown player that makes a spectacular catch, it always comes from Seattle. Like that thing's about.
They have the most random receivers and tight ends that will make some crazy catches.
Paul Richardson had that one catch and then like dipped off of the face of the earth. He makes me think of guys like Luke Wilson, and I'm just like, yeah. This is just kind of how Seattle operates nowadays. But you got anything else on them?
No, I mean, their run game went well, and I think that's, a big part of the reason why, they were able to still put up 20. I think that, like you said, they should have absolutely looked better even without DK Metcalf. We talked about this receiving core going into this year potentially being one of the best in the league when you have those three guys healthy between JSN, Lockett, and Metcalf. Even with Metcalf out, you still should be a pretty good receiving core against a Cardinals team that just, as we said, isn't good.
You just expected more.
Yes, I mean a 20-10 victory is not bad. We have both said NFL wins are hard. You take whatever you can get, but especially for building momentum and establishing yourself and building just general confidence in your team, you want to see you beat the teams that you should handedly. And they definitely feels like they should have beaten them by more, but I'm sure they'll learn from it. They hope to get DK Metcalf back and get back to doing what they do best. But at the end of the day, I think they'll still be fine. They just had a little bit of bump in the road in this game.
The 4-2 Seahawks get the Browns next week, and the 1-6 Cardinals get the Ravens. Keeping it on moving, we're going to talk about an AFC West matchup between the Chargers and the Chiefs. It's pretty much the same script that we've seen between these two teams. You stick with them blow for blow until a certain point where the Chiefs end up pulling away, and that was the case, 31-17. Patrick Mahomes did Patrick Mahomes things, is now back atop the MVP ladder. He, if the season ended today, he would be my bet for most valuable player. 32 of 42, 424, 4 tuds, and a pick. And he used his natural safety blanket, Travis Kelce, 12 receptions, 13 targets, 179 yards, and a touchdown. And that's all we're going to talk about with Travis Kelce. No more. He had
He's a good tight end.
He's a good tight end. And just because we simply refuse to mention anything else about that guy. We simply refuse to mention anything else about that guy. He's got a good podcast, though.
I like his brother.
But we simply refuse to mention anything else about that guy. How about the Chargers? Yeah. All the talent in the world can't save you if you can't execute.
No, not
also
really.
Doesn't help when your quarterback's hurt, but
Yeah, no, I mean Herbert's, he's trying to battle through stuff. He's turning the ball over a little bit too much. You could say some of that is dealing with his injury. Some of that is.
But Tim, we're not going to say anything else about Travis Kelce.
Good thing I was talking about Justin Herbert. But when it comes down to it, I think the Chargers are just, again, we've talked about this before. They're doing what they do. It's good to see Josh Palmer do great. Keenan Allen finally got limited. The big thing that I think that bothers me is that they have had one good week this season with the running game. And ever since then, they can't get either Josh Kelly or Austin Eckler, whoever is out there, or if both of them are out there. They've been really struggling. So that's been a big disappointment for them. But I think the turnovers are probably the thing that's killing them the most. And you and I both have the opinion that their coaching staff, specifically Staley, is certainly not helping them whatsoever. So that I think is a pretty big part of it. But
they're talking about, since the Chargers do play the Bears in primetime football next week, could Brandon Staley get fired if they lose? It's not out of the possibility, but it's I wouldn't count on the Chargers losing to the Bears, but if they do lose to Tyson Bagent at home on Monday Night Football, heads I think it should roll.
Yes, if it's an if, and if that does happen, then that's bad. First of all, and second of all, I think there will be a lot more
teams. Honestly,
serious. It is, quite honestly.
I think it's bad for both teams because, the Chargers lose. What are you going to do with all this talent and nowhere to show? Because you're 2-5.
The Bears draft pick, and then the Bears draft pick gets worse.
And then the Bears are screwing up their tank because the quarterback that they drafted in the first round is getting outplayed by an undrafted free agent. Screws up both teams. And honestly, I'm here for it for various reasons, but that's neither here nor there. It's going to be. It's going to be interesting. That's for sure.
I am to the point where
the Chiefs go play the Broncos. By the way, just to put that out there.
Yeah, I would not be surprised, nor would I'd be upset if Brandon Staley were to just randomly get fired tomorrow, even without any additional reasoning, because it really has felt like he has been a big limiting factor in not only his coaching style but just his coaching. In terms of the talent that this team has had. So I wouldn't call myself a fan of the Chargers at all, but I like quite a few of their individual players. So I follow them more than I follow a lot of like other teams outside of the Bears. So it has been even annoying just for someone like me to be like, just like, what's wrong with you
Like, what are you
guys? Like,
doing?
just do something. Do something right.
We don't know. We got 2 more games to cover. The Sunday night football game between the Dolphins and the Eagles. The Eagles won 31-17, and this was a game where you had questions to answer about both teams, whether they were like legitimate contenders, like, oh, can the Dolphins hang with the big boys? Can the Eagles win convincingly? And nothing was answered. Like,
Yeah.
the Dolphins still can't beat a good team, and the Eagles still can't win convincingly. Um, it's an interesting conundrum to see, especially, like, you see what the Eagles do when they're not penalized, but the Dolphins were penalized 10 times. It's a little bit peculiar, if you ask me. The things that stood out from this game: wide receiver play, AJ Brown and Tyreek Hill both having
They
good
do their
days.
thing.
Although, if you ask me, I think the better receiver was on the Philadelphia side, but that's a conversation to have for a later day. QB play, they were both efficient in terms of completion percentage, but completion percentage is for nerds, so who cares? Jalen Hurts put the ball in the end zone 3 times, twice through the air and once on the ground. The brotherly shove still remains unstoppable, and if you ban
They
it,
do it well.
that is injustice to football. There's one team that does it well. Don't punish them because they do a thing better than everybody else. Like,
Yeah.
let's use our heads
I
here.
think it was Sirianni who said if everybody could do it, they'd do it.
Yeah, but not everybody has the Eagles O line and the strength of Jalen Hurts, who is an absolute force. But what do you have from this game?
Yeah, I mean, for the only thing that I say that I don't necessarily agree with you entirely on is the whole like winning convincingly part, because you do hold a Dolphins offense who has been known to torch some people. You hold them to 17. 17 isn't, like a great defensive game in terms of giving that up. But also, I mean, Raheem Mostert has done really well so far this season. They kept him in check. As much as you give Tyreek a touchdown, which was just a streak down the left sideline or whatever, actually very similar to the Alabama game-winning
Oh
national
yeah,
championship winning throw with Tua at the helm back in, I can't even remember what year that is now.
a long time
But
ago in
still,
a galaxy far, far
but
away.
but you keep Tyreek Hill to 88 yards, who has been tearing apart a whole lot of teams and is way far and away the receiving leader right now. So honestly, I don't hate their defensive performance, and putting up 31, I can't be mad at that if I'm looking at the Eagles offense. So I can't really be too mad with their performance, to be fair.
The Eagles at 6-1 will play the Commanders, and the Dolphins at 5-2 get the Patriots. And last but certainly not least, the Monday night game between the Vikings and the 49ers, where guess what? Brock
Primetime
Purdy
Kirk?
is not perfect. Primetime
No.
Kirk showed up. Kirk Cousins is good at football, and the Vikings won a game. What? No way. That's going to be awesome because they're not winning next week, but this is this week. Kirk Cousins, without Justin Jefferson, looked to Jordan Addison early and often, and Jordan Addison was phenomenal. 7 catches on 10 targets, 123 yards and 2 touchdowns, and made a lot of fantasy managers happy, because if you were in a 30-point hole in a PPR league and you just had Jordan Addison, congratulations. You won. Gone.
Yep.
But just an interesting game overall on both sides, where you expected better from Brock Purdy and the 49ers offense in general. You didn't expect Christian McCaffrey to be held to 3 yards a carry, but granted, touchdown machine, still found the end zone twice. You can't stop him. You can only hope to contain him. But
honestly, most of the time you can't really hope to contain him.
The Vikings found a way to get it done. Took home a victory.
Yeah. It's one of those things where they did enough, and they specifically, I think I would probably give some of the most credit to the Vikings D line in this one, because not only did they make Brock Purdy uncomfortable, but they also, you talked about, limited McCaffrey pretty well in the run game. which was obviously a very big thing for them. A couple things to note. Obviously, 49ers having Deebo Samuel is out. Not great for them, but again, they still have weapons all over the field that they've been known to go to like crazy. They are no shortage of weapons. That's not an excuse whatsoever. Brock Purdy getting the 2 interceptions is definitely what hurts them the most. And a lot of those opportunities where they were trying to, towards the end of the game, make some noise, make something happen, and come up in crunch time, and they just couldn't really get stuff going. On the Viking side of the ball, though, they still can't run the ball very well.
No, but that's not new.
Exactly, it's not new. But Kirk Cousins, I'm interested to see whether or not they can keep this type of production up without Justin Jefferson, because last week was more typical of what I thought a Justin Jefferson-less Vikings team would look like. This week, they actually were able to throw the ball really well. Not only do you get Jordan Addison going crazy all over the field, but you also get TJ Hawkinson with 11 receptions.
It's quite the rebound game for the Vikings offense in general.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, it was pretty interesting for me to see. We'll see if they're able to keep it up. But, I mean, you got to give credit where credit is due. The Vikings just played pretty darn well, and like I said, well enough to counteract the mistakes that the 49ers were making.
The Vikings, sitting at 3-4, will drop to 3-5 when they go to Green Bay to play the Packers.
You sure are confident.
Dude, I gotta have something. All right.
Do you
there's not much positive going on about the Packers.
We have nothing.
I refuse. You can't kill me that easily. The 49ers at 5-2 will go play the Cincinnati Bengals. But that's all we got for our Week 7 NFL recap. If you haven't seen any of the other recaps of any of the weeks in NFL football, we have all of those, as well as previews of all the teams. And if you don't like football, that's okay. We got you covered with so many other sports.
We are officially reaching November, and you know what that means? College basketball is so back. I am just about ready to go to Mackey Arena for my first exhibition game for Purdue basketball. I am so hyped. So join me in the hype. There will be college basketball content.
Will Purdue win the national championship game, or will they
I am
lose
not
in the
going
first
that far
round?
yet.
Oh, trust me,
I will plead the fifth.
You will, but
I will in due time.
Until next time, we out.